my sister had said something about, how she was listening to men who were women who had transitioned into men and had made the shift gender wise, and, they were complaining about how much harder it was to be a man and received as a man because, I pointed this out. I had said that, the way that the privilege had worked out in a way where it was obviously like men had more privilege than women and everything, and that, but that hadn't played out in a perfectly even fashion where it was like as simple as men have the upper hand and we're the privileged one and the group, because there are always trade-offs in reality, and how it had worked out in such a way where it was like, if I have a bad day, if I take a spill and I'm sad, I don't really get the same support as a woman would in the same situation. Like women, they have this sort of advantage in that, people feel more sorry for them than they do for us as men. And so as a consequence, when a woman is sad or takes a dive emotionally, people try to lift her up, and I'm all caught up in it too, trying to cheer her up and everything. Like, I'm not saying I'm some kind of exception to this. I am part of this problem. But when a man, falls apart emotionally, it's like nobody's really there to catch us at all, and everything. And so women have a privilege in that respect and everything compared to men, because people are there for you in a way where they aren't for us. And I guess that really matters to me a lot, because, it turns into this very like pathological jealousy for me about that one privilege in particular, and that I'd really actually rather be on your side of the aisle, despite all the fucking negative trade-offs that come with that territory, over that one, over that one thing. That one thing is such a massive privilege that I wish that I had it so intensely and everything. And, the thing about the complexity of all of it, she was talking about the way that a man, that these trans men had come over, and they were like, I can't even start a conversation without people responding in a fashion that is, twinged with suspicion because it's a man speaking and everything. And, as this went on and as we were having this conversation, I didn't have anything to say initially, but a couple of days go by, and then I remember that conversation that I had with that one lady, where like I'm just having a natural reaction to Roe versus Wade being overturned and everything, and I talk about how it was a body blow and how acutely I felt it because I had spent so much time, researching, why doctors had changed their minds, and the women who went into septic shock and all that other shit. The mental picture of it I can't scrub from my mind and everything. And I know that the pills exist and people can get abortions that way these days, but that is only going to be accessible for the people that can afford access to the medical system, a prescription for it, or can find some way of getting it illegally and everything. And, like, plus, we're prosecuting women who do that and who have miscarriages these days and everything and all that shit, because there's this attempt to crack down on the women who have, been caught doing it that way and having abortions, because they're trying to make it illegal. And, eventually this is going to lead to women either being locked up or dead. And, I knew that. I knew that right away. And so when the ruling came down, I was a puddle, of tears as a consequence of it, because I understood immediately the significance of it. And so it hit me right in the gut, emotionally. But it's like I can't talk about that with feminism in some context, anyways, because the reaction that some of them have is, oh, men are the really oppressed one because of all this terrible shit happening to women. And it's like, that is the most uncharitable way of interpreting what I'm saying that I can possibly imagine. It's like, I'm not interested in playing this game of oppression Olympics with you. We've both got it bad. I don't really care to be the one that comes out ahead in this fight. I'm willing to acknowledge that you probably took the short straw between the two of us, but that doesn't mean we're not both suffering, and everything. And, like, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the way that a lot of the time the movement kind of castigate us to the side such that we're not able to even say anything. I'm supposed to just be really emotionally devastated by Roe being overturned, and yet I have to just say nothing and let women have the floor constantly. I mean, do you understand why, if that's what an ally is supposed to do, then maybe I don't really want to play the role of one? I'm trying, to be a feminist in my own way, but, sometimes the expectations that are foisted on us as allies, I'm just not down with.